Hi, dear Robert.
Mean.
So today I would like to dive a little deeper into the daily practice. Why is daily practice so very important?
My teacher would say to practice daily, regularly, and sincerely. The regular part has to do with the cycles of our body as they connect to the cycles of Earth and the sun and the moon, and everything's in rhythms. And once that rhythm becomes established, the body responds in a very positive way. And daily, because what's taking place in the practice is these neural pathways are being developed every time you practice. And it's increasing the capacity for the perception of light. It also has these therapeutic effects, but it's the whole system is building every day. And with the daily practice, people will have different experiences that can be so ethereal. And if they don't repeat it again the next day, then they don't really lodge in the mind the same way that a memory would as you would read something. So you're given access to this window that's energetic. And if you do it on again the following day, it becomes established then the next day because it's all developing day by day.
Cleansing and developing.
Yes, exactly. Right? It's doing both. It's like helping to purify. It's bringing more light and more coherence to the body. And one big way that, well, there's many ways, but I'll just mention one because it's very important. You know, pulsation is conducted, this light that's very palpable. It's very similar to the heartbeat, and people can do it or do it with their attention. And look, everybody has problems. Everybody has impressions, these different traumas. Meister Eckhart was really a genius. He could see 30 to 40 layers around the heart. It's what therapists called armor, because we're trying to protect ourselves after being injured and different, as an infant. And it's very trouble. But like you said, you have to go into your heart to know yourself, the divinity that's in your own heart. This part of the practice that's taking place, that light is being touching and helping to dismantle these impressions, because they are too constructed. They operate through light. They're in subtle fields. They're in fields outside of time and space, but they're lodged right in the body. So this way, it's like a daily kind of therapy, but you're not thinking of your problems. You're not reviewing anything. You're not having thoughts that way. You're just directing your aspiration to divinity through this energy.
And then it's happening. And like also in Kriya, or a part of the Kriya technique is also the Mahamudra, which is like one of the physical movements.
Yes.
Usually it's no more asanas, not even pranayama if you want, right?
Well, yeah.
A little bit.
Well, what happens is people anticipate that there'll be this kind of pranayama with very strong breathing. It's very purifying, and it's a good reason to do it. But with the initiation, because of Baba's participation in the transmission of light, people are purified. They're able to have this activation to allow them to hear sound, see light, and it's part of this whole change of this purification of the body. So that type of pranayama is not necessary anymore. But Kriya uses pranayama, but I don't think it's written about in books. I don't know. But you raise your eyebrows, that's a lock. It activates receptors that slow the heart. The chin is in the right position, and there's a sinus right in the carotid artery. That too is a pranayama. It's, again, another network that slows the heart, changes the breath. So it's this type of pranayama is used. But that's just one example of pranayama. The Mahamudra, Baba would say that the goal of Hatha Yoga was designated by the term Ha and Ta. Everybody knows how the nostrils predominate. The air flows according to the activation of the hemispheres. This is the Ha, solar, lunar. It's that part of those cycles we talked about. It happens in every person. The goal, as Baba said, was to balance this, where both hemispheres are in equilibrium, and it affects every cell of the body and gives a unique state for meditation. So the Mahamudra is a synthesis of Hatha Yoga. You give pressure against the torso, you laterally extend. You have to grasp the foot in the right way. And many people are teaching versions, but if it's done properly and a person can relax and do it, it's automatic.
Balancing out.
People will achieve it. It's the model of the Sushumna, the Ida and the Pingala, but that's a model. It's a good model, but it's metaphorical. It's so much more elaborate what's taking place in the body and in consciousness. So, but it gives the all-around developments of Hatha Yoga. Just this one technique, plus the bows are also physical. People will laterally extend and extend the spine. And, it's inseparable from our consciousness. Our consciousness is embedded through the body. Every thought we have, it's not just operating in this part of the nervous system. It goes right through the enteric nervous system. It affects the whole vagus nerve with this whole exchange of information through the body.
Yeah, and with the organs and like the whole, it's just, it's unbelievable how the body works, right?
It is. It's inconceivable how orchestrated quadrillions of chemical reactions, each one, none of them are random. They're all orchestrated in 1 second to function through the light of the heart. But again, we're back to this idea of coherence. When the mind has that clearness, that calmness, it's very coherent. The heart conducts this coherent light, facilitates all that. And the Mahamudra and these two very physical components, they're at work helping to facilitate this, but practically. Practically, Baba would do this and then release, and maybe the camera reveals the blood coming back into my hand. You're giving pressure like this. It's against the liver, the pancreas, the thyroid. So it's that pressure then releasing. All the blood rushes back into every cell to tone and strengthen, to help. It's the microcirculation. And all the nutrients, the hormones, it's so beneficial.
Do you consider yourself healthy, having practiced for so long?
Yeah, I do. I'm so grateful to have my health. And again, I did have a kind of an episode where I didn't have health, but I was astounded to see how I could recover, because I wasn't sure. I was bedridden for months. But thanks to these techniques and the first part of second Kriya, which does have it's physical, and there's very strong breathing energetically. It's so helpful to me. So I'm so grateful that I have the vitality, the strength.
And I also want to mention, like, you have a wife and you have a child. She's grown. She's married.
She's 34. Yeah.
So you've been practicing all along, right?
Yeah.
You've been practicing, because a lot of people are like, but I'm married, I have kids, it's hard for me, like, to put it into a more practical. You're an example, I am an example, right?
Well, we're so lucky, because we have something we can sit down, and in not even a minute we can activate the crown of our head. And people are giving their lives in India to try to achieve this. We can hear divine sound at any time. As soon as we bring our attention, no matter where we be on the train, in any environment, and see, you have that benefit. Whereas Baba told me he'd met sadhus who practiced for 20 years extremely all day long. They couldn't hear divine sound, because it's a science. So we've been, by the grace of God, we receive this. It's so efficacious. So in my life, I can't say I would have done this if I had to struggle for years and hoping I'd have this happen, or being able to finally hear, because it just happened at the time of initiation. I felt so fortunate. And then every time I'd practice, you'd gain something. It wasn't like in hope that something would happen in the future.
And also for me, like, in a very practical way, like in daily life, if there is a situation where I'm like, oh, I really don't know which way to go or what to do, or I'm noticing that the thoughts are starting to, like, turn around, And then I come back to the technique, right? I come back to the light, and it's like immediately centering. It's like, oh, and clarity is just like, whoa, starting to be here.
Yeah, yeah, you have that power.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have that, you have to use your will
Mm-hmm.
and make that shift. But because of doing the techniques, those pathways are there to allow you to have that instant change. And you heard me speak of Yogananda's disciple, James Lin. He'd be in the board meeting.
Yeah.
Very intense situations. There's, huge money. It's America. And there he is. And he was practicing, because you learn to meditate with your eyes open, but in a natural way. And he's practicing these techniques and just listening to the discussions, not analyzing, because he had that confidence. And he wasn't going to be thrown off center. He was just, because people get very argumentative and they can be, pretty insulting at times. He didn't react emotionally. And then he'd say, he just listen. He wouldn't say until he was asked a question, and then he could feel the right course of action. The way you're guided, you come back to that center, and then when things begin to crystallize, they become clear what you should do. There's clarity. Now, he would do that in the board meeting.
And the ego is also starting to what we consider the ego.
Right. Well, you think of James Lin, if he was worried about himself, about what people would think, or have his ego involved, then there'd be some fear, and I don't know and then he'd be thrown off. It's just, because the moment you think of yourself, and it's usually only trouble, isn't it? I mean, this is our main worrying about ourselves. When people feel so good when they're not thinking about themselves.
Very true.
they just feel great.
Yeah.
So it's really tricky. It's challenging for everybody, and it never stops becoming a challenge. But you're just better equipped to deal with it. Yeah.
One more question that keeps coming up with people who are interested in techniques, or whether that's Hatha Yoga or Kriya Yoga or meditation itself. I've come across it now a few times. Like, can I still be Christian, and can I, can I bring those two together, like my Christian upbringing, my Christian practice, and like something like meditation or Kriya?
Wow, there's a number of historians, including some really brilliant people, who studied early Christianity, the Gnostic period, and there was people meditating from Turkey all the way around to Western Egypt, and people who were ascetics going into the desert. And one prominent historian said these people were celebrated the way athletes are celebrated today. They were celebrity. Because they'd go for sermons from these people. They'd have large processions. So people would walk for miles outside of the city to go and to hear them speak about divinity. And it was taught in the church.
Wow, now we have soccer players, right?
And movies. Yeah, exactly.
Star.
Celebrated. Yeah. So Christianity has this history, and it was really taught. And it's been one of the Pope John, it gave certain priests who had come across this, but it never stopped in the Eastern Church. Yeah, the early church, there's a book called the Philokalia that talks about meditation.
I've read it too.
Yeah.
Like until 325, the Council of Nicaea, where they supposedly also removed some parts.
Yeah, it became the religion of Rome even before then. And then they actually found scriptures where they talked about these things that had been hidden because they were, so there's kind of politics there, but it was a tradition of the church. And this is a universal practice. It's not about Hinduism. It's about each person's relationship with divinity.
Yeah, and you talk about Mother Mary, and you talk about Padre Pio. I mean, they're all also from Christian church, right?
Right. I mean, some people, their whole practice, and Kriya's, whatever genuine but people have read about higher yoga. I mean, people will see the, pardon me, the illustrations of the chakras with the different letters. This is part of Kriya Yoga. It doesn't stop there, but it's here in the core of the body. It's right in the bones. The frequencies are there. That's where the letters come from, the inner tones. So people will practice this and they'll have this light of their attention and the light of their heart, literally striking and making that sound.
Mm.
And for some people, those 50 letters, and again, it's energetic, it's in the body. It's these collarbone, 5 ribs, collarbone. That's the 12 petals of the heart. But it's light in each of those bones. So it sounds very technical, but for some people, that becomes a rosary. They're they have a relationship with Mary. They're worshiping Mary right through that energy. Huh?
What is most amazing to me is also like sometimes I ask for help, so like Yogananda or whoever to assist me when I'm doing the practice. So because I don't remember all the letters by heart, but like just to help me practice properly. And I love that part about it. That's probably the same like if you pray, and then you also get
well, it's so interesting because people think, they're practicing at home alone. It's never that simple because it's not just limited to the gurus, other divine persons. People have connections with so many different, so many people in the higher world, including these greatest saints, these divine personages. But they'll come and they'll give people the intimation. They'll try to prompt them to just change their look a little bit differently, to use the breath this way, these adjustments. In fact, one woman I know very well came to meet Baba, and she was, the first time she met Baba, he said to her very sweetly, when you meditate at home, could you please wear some clothes? So cute. They'll never invade your privacy. They would never do that. But when you're meditating, because they come. But it's not about you knowing they're there because, you would be, your whole field would.
Yeah.
But it's this kind of help. But they're helping us in every way they can. And the more you ask for help, the more they can help.
I feel it.
I
feel it so much.
Yeah, even in little things, what we think is little is, just, like, what do I prepare for dinner? What would be good for my husband?
Yeah, but also like with my child, with my son, I don't know how you did it, but I asked Mary a lot, like to support, and it's upbringing of a child. I don't have that many examples of parents who are showing me how you can really do it, let's say, different from my parents, which was very strict and very harsh and very,
God bless your parents. It's like on-the-job training. I don't know what you're doing. It's not everywhere in the West, but it's, in America, it was, just people they just don't know. But it's so important. It has so much about nurturing the child, and then because you're practicing Kriya, that becomes part of your Kriya in a way. Just energetically feeling how the love affects, and but in a practical way, but at every level, with your child and feeling those decisions, but also practically when you're trying to meditate, and then your 3-year-old comes and jumps on your lap. So with my daughter, I just say, okay, now we're going to do Mahamudra. And she'd bend over, okay, Daddy, and she'd do it with me. And then she'd, go run off and do something else. It was just part of the practice. Then she'd come 5 minutes later. I go, okay, now we're going to do Jyoti Mudra. You touch your eyes, you see the light. She'd go, yes, Daddy. So it's just, this becomes part of your life, with your practice formally, but then with your informal practice too, but there's so much guidance.
There is. One more last question. If someone would want to know what is the difference really, like if they practice Hatha Yoga and then, they're kind of interested in Kriya Yoga, like how can we explain that Kriya Yoga really has not much to do with the postures, with, the classical asana
it's
practice?
It's hard for people to understand. They can hear the words that it's a synthesis of Hatha Yoga, and it grants very quickly that goal of Hatha Yoga if people practice it. But it's just hard for people to imagine that because it's all experiential. But that's the reality of it. If they could just experience it, but of course, there's the issue too. All higher meditation, the whole echelon of higher meditation begins in the upper cortex, and that's one of the heralds of that experience is divine sound. It's like a threshold event, and people are granted that event on the day of initiation. And this ability to see light, both light here with form, light without form, light in the air, light in the world, right at the beginning. And that's kind of many people are practicing Hatha Yoga for decades and not experiencing that. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank